Some Eisenhower dollars are worth just a cent, but a few are worth thousands or more. In this video, we'll look at the most valuable Eisenhower dollar and what makes them so rare. Keep watching, you might have one in your... First up, the 1977 Eisenhower dollar with the P mint mark, and specifically what it's worth in today's auction market when the coin is in circulated, very fine condition. The Eisenhower dollar series represents a fascinating era of American coinage, a time when the United States was transitioning from large silver dollars into modern clad coinage, and collecting these pieces can connect you with both history and real market value. So whether you're a seasoned collector or someone who just found one in a coin roll, let's explore what makes this coin special and how much you could expect it to bring in current auctions. The Eisenhower dollar was first issued in 1971, honoring two great American achievements. The obverse features President Dwight D. Eisenhower, the supreme Allied commander in Europe during World War II, and later the 34th President of the United States. The reverse design pays tribute to the United States' success in space exploration, with an eagle landing on the moon, a design inspired by the Apollo 11 mission insignia that famously marked humanity's first lunar touchdown. This connection to both military leadership and the space program gives the Eisenhower dollar a unique place in numismatic history. By the time we reach the 1977 issue at the Philadelphia Mint, shown by the P mint mark just above the date, the Eisenhower dollar had become established in America's coin circulation. Though the series was popular with collectors, it was not widely used in everyday commerce. Many coins were saved right out of the mint, and millions were placed directly into collector sets. However, plenty also entered circulation, and those circulated examples are where most collectors and dealers focus when determining value for average condition coins. When we describe a coin as being in very fine circulated condition, we use a standard collector grading scale. A very fine coin has seen moderate circulation but still retains a good amount of its original design details. On a 1977 Eisenhower dollar, a very fine coin will show wear on the high points of President Eisenhower's portrait, such as the hair, cheekbones, and jawline, but the features should remain distinct. The lettering and date should be clear, and the fields around the design will show even wear rather than heavy scratches or gouges. On the reverse, the eagle's feathers and the lunar surface will be softened from handling, but the major design elements will still read well. A very fine Eisenhower dollar is not pristine, but it is collectible and presents a nice balance between affordability and detail. Now let's talk about value. In today's auction market, a 1977 P Eisenhower dollar in circulated very fine condition generally sells for a modest but steady amount. Because this issue was struck in very high numbers, tens of millions were minted at the Philadelphia Mint. It's considered common among Eisenhower dollar dates. That means there's a healthy supply in every grade of circulated condition. Recent auction data from well-known numismatic marketplaces and online coin auctions shows that these coins typically bring between roughly 6 and 15 USD in very fine circulated grades. Coins that fall toward the lower end of that range are usually those with heavier wear, dull surfaces, or less appealing eye appeal. Coins that manage to show attractive toning, minimal contact marks, and good detail retention, even with circulation wear, will draw stronger bids and land around the higher end of the typical range. It's important to note that this value range reflects current market interest for standard circulated examples, without any rare errors or unique characteristics. Auction results can vary slightly depending on the time of year, the platform used, and how well the coin is presented in its listing, with clear photos and accurate grading notes. Collectors should also be wary of cleaning. Many people believe that removing dirt or toning from a coin will make it more valuable, but the opposite is often true. Improper cleaning, especially using abrasive cloths, harsh chemicals, or polishing agents, can leave micro scratches and surface damage that significantly diminish the coin's value in the eyes of collectors. Coins with original surfaces and natural wear are almost always preferred, even if they show signs of circulation, so a very fine coin with honest wear and natural patina is usually more desirable than one that has been aggressively cleaned to try to appear newer. Another thing to consider in the Eisenhower dollar market is the growing interest in specific varieties and errors. While the standard 1977p Eisenhower dollar isn't known for dramatic mint errors, there are struck varieties in rare patterns and other dates that can bring significantly higher premiums. But for the average circulated very fine 1977p coin, the values we've discussed are realistic expectations based on real-world auction results. One of the unique qualities of Eisenhower dollars is that they attract a wide range of collectors. Some are interested in modern coinage, others focus on series completion, and some appreciate the historical context tied to both presidential history and the U.S. space program. Because of that diversity of interest, even circulated pieces like a very fine 1977p can find consistent demand in auctions and private sales. It's also worth noting that the Eisenhower Dollar series has become more popular with younger collectors who value coins that reflect the space age and modern American history. Unlike older vintage coins that require deep pockets to buy in high grades, Eisenhower dollars offer a chance to build meaningful collections without huge financial investment. A very fine 1977p coin is an accessible and historically rich piece that fits comfortably into many types of collections. So, to summarize, the 1977 Eisenhower dollar with the Philadelphia mint mark in circulated very fine condition is a common but collectible coin that continues to trade actively in today's auction market. Typical auction results show values generally ranging from about 6 to 15 USD, depending on overall eye appeal and surface quality. While it's not a rare date or high-value rarity, it's a solid collectible that tells a story about American history, coinage design, and the evolution of the U.S. dollar. Whether you found one in a box of old coins or you're filling out a modern coin collection, this is a piece worth holding on to, understanding, and appreciating for both its history and its real-world market.
Next up, the 1978 Eisenhower dollar with the D mint mark. Specifically, what it's worth in today's auction market when the coin is in circulated, dirty condition. This coin might not look like much when you pull it out of a jar or a box of old pocket change, but it's part of an important chapter in American numismatics. So let's take a detailed look at its history, what circulated, dirty condition really means, and the realistic value you can expect if you're buying or selling this coin in today's auction world. The Eisenhower dollar was first struck in 1971 and remained in production through 1978. It was the first large dollar coin issued by the United States Mint since the Peace Dollar series ended in 1935. The series honors President Dwight D. Eisenhower on the obverse, a decorated World War II general and the 34th President of the United States, while the reverse design features a bold eagle landing on the moon, inspired by the same Apollo 11 insignia that captured the imagination of millions in the late 1960s. This design connects two major moments in U.S. history, military leadership and space exploration, giving the Eisenhower dollar a unique place in American coinage. The D mint mark on a 1978 D Eisenhower dollar tells us that the coin was struck at the Denver Mint. That facility produced a large number of these coins, making the 1978 D one of the more common date and mint combinations in the series. Because of the high mintages, often tens of millions of pieces, most surviving examples today are found in circulated condition. Among those are coins that show moderate wear and plenty of surface grime from years of handling and storage, which is exactly what we mean when we talk about a circulated, dirty condition. When a coin is described as circulated, it means it has been used in everyday commerce and shows obvious signs of wear. Dirty condition goes a step further. The coin not only shows wear from circulation, but also has accumulated surface dirt, oils, oxidation, toning, or environmental deposits from years spent in pockets, coin jars, drawers, or rolls. These pieces often have dull surfaces, darkened fields, and a general lack of luster that makes them look well used. But even with that wear and grime, the key design elements like Eisenhower's portrait, the date, mint mark, and the eagle on the reverse remain identifiable. Collectors and buyers look closely at these coins because condition has a big impact on value. In standard numismatic grading terms, a circulated dirty coin ranks well below uncirculated and even well-circulated clean examples. However, that doesn't mean these coins are worthless. They still have collector interest, and they still trade regularly in auctions, especially among collectors building date and mint sets who are willing to accept lower-grade coins to complete their collections affordably. So what does a 1978 D Eisenhower dollar in circulated dirty condition actually sell for in today's auction market? When we look at recent auction results from platforms like eBay, dedicated coin auction houses, and dealer listings, we see a consistent pattern. Most 1978 D Eisenhower dollars in this condition are selling in a price range roughly between $4 and $12 US. Coins toward the lower end of that spectrum tend to be heavily worn, with murky surfaces, obvious nicks, and minimal remaining detail. Those toward the upper end show a bit more detail in the design, fewer surface flaws, and perhaps even some attractive brown or gray toning despite the dirt. It's worth pointing out that these values reflect real auction activity, actual coins offered and sold by real collectors. Coin values can fluctuate over time based on collector demand, broader interest in the hobby, and how well individual listings are presented with clear photos and honest descriptions. A coin that's well photographed, with accurate notes about wear and surface condition, will almost always attract better bids than one with poor photos and vague descriptions. One common misconception is that cleaning a coin will increase its value. In the case of Eisenhower dollars, and most coins in general, this is not true. Harsh cleaning, especially with abrasives or household chemicals, can leave micro-scratches and alter the surface in ways that diminish collector interest. Collectors almost always prefer coins with original surfaces, even if those surfaces are dirty and worn. This is because natural wear tells a story about the coin's life in circulation, whereas cleaning artificially alters the coin's original character. So a genuine, uncleaned, circulated 1978 D coin, even in dirty condition, is typically more desirable than one that has been improperly cleaned. Another factor that can influence value is eye appeal, even in low-grade coins. Two coins described as dirty circulated might both have surface wear, but one may still show attractive tones or stronger detail that helps it stand out in an auction listing. Coins that look more appealing in photos, even with wear, often bring better prices because collectors respond to what they see. It's also worth noting that within the Eisenhower series, certain varieties and error coins can command much higher prices. However, the standard 1978 D Eisenhower dollar in circulated dirty condition is not generally one of those high-value specialties. Those rarer or error varieties are exceptions and attract specific collector interest that goes beyond the typical circulated coin market. Most people interested in Eisenhower dollars today are either beginners looking to complete a date and mint set without breaking the bank, or more advanced collectors who appreciate the historical context of these modern large dollars. The affordable nature of circulated examples makes them accessible, educational, and practical pieces for all kinds of collections. So, to summarize, while the 1978 D Eisenhower dollar in circulated dirty condition is not an ultra-rare or high-value coin, it still carries real collectible interest and trades actively in the auction market. Typical auction prices for these coins today range from about $4 on the low end to around $12 for pieces with better detail and eye appeal. That makes them accessible for new collectors and a solid, historically rich addition to any collection. Whether you found one at a flea market, in pocket change, or inherited it from an old collection, this coin is a meaningful piece of American numismatic history and still worth understanding from both a historical and market perspective.
Next up, the 1972 Eisenhower dollar with no mint mark, and talk about what it's worth in today's auction market when the coin is in circulated very fine condition. You might think that a dollar coin from the 1970s is just old pocket change, but when you look at it through the lens of history and coin collecting, you begin to appreciate its story, its design, and its place in the market. So let's break this down in detail, from the background of the coin to the realistic value it can bring in today's auctions. The Eisenhower dollar was first released in 1971 and was minted through 1978. It was designed to honor two major American achievements: the leadership of President Dwight D. Eisenhower and the nation's historic accomplishments in space. On the obverse of the coin is a portrait of Eisenhower, a five-star Army general during World War II and the 34th President of the United States. The reverse design depicts an eagle landing on the moon, modeled after the Apollo 11 mission insignia from the first manned lunar landing. This combination of historical imagery makes the Eisenhower dollar unique among U.S. coins and gives it appeal for collectors and history enthusiasts alike. The 1972 issue, particularly those without a mint mark, were struck at the Philadelphia Mint. In 1972, the Philadelphia facility did not use a mint mark on coins, which is why these pieces are referred to simply as no mint mark or P-less coins. Philadelphia had a long tradition of producing U.S. coins, and the lack of a mint mark can sometimes create confusion for casual collectors. But among numismatists, it's a familiar and easily recognized trait of coins from this era. Unlike certain rarer dates, the 1972 Eisenhower dollar is considered common, with tens of millions struck. That large mintage means many examples survive today in a wide range of conditions, from mint state to heavily circulated. When we talk about circulated very fine condition, we're using a standard numismatic grading term. A very fine coin will show clear signs of wear from years in commerce. The high points of the design may be smoothed, and the fields of the coin may have light marks or dulling, but the major details of the design remain sharp and readable. On the obverse, you'll still see Eisenhower's facial features and hair defined, even if softened slightly by wear. On the reverse, the eagle's feathers and the moon's textures should still be visible and identifiable, though not as crisp on higher-graded coins. Now let's talk about what collectors are paying for a coin like this today. In the current auction market, a 1972 Eisenhower dollar with no mint mark in circulated very fine condition generally brings a modest but steady price. Because this coin is common, and because circulated very fine grades are plentiful, the market tends to price these coins affordably. Recent auction results from reputable online platforms, coin auction houses, and dealer sales consistently show prices falling in the range of about 6 to 15 USD for coins in this condition. Coins toward the lower end of that range are usually those with heavier circulation wear, dull surfaces, or multiple contact marks. Because these coins show more signs of everyday use, collectors looking for better eye appeal may bid more conservatively. Coins toward the higher end of the range are typically those where the detail is stronger, where the surfaces have fewer distracting marks, and where the overall look of the coin remains attractive despite evident circulation. It's important to note that these values reflect what actual collectors are paying in real-world auctions. Coin values can vary slightly depending on the auction platform, how well the coin is photographed, and how accurately the listing describes the condition. High-quality photos and honest grading notes can make a noticeable difference in final sale prices, even for circulated coins. Collectors should also be aware that the term very fine covers a wide range of appearance within the circulated category. Two coins described as very fine can look slightly different depending on how the wear is distributed on the surfaces. A coin with even, pleasing wear and good detail may be more desirable and bring a higher price than one with uneven wear, heavy scratches, or environmental discoloration. One common mistake people make is thinking that cleaning a coin will make it more valuable. In most cases, the opposite is true. Harsh cleaning, especially with abrasives or household chemicals, can leave tiny scratches or alter the natural surfaces of the coin. Serious collectors almost always prefer coins with original surfaces, even if they're worn or lightly dirty, because that represents the coin's authentic history. Cleaning for cosmetic reasons generally reduces value rather than enhancing it, and improperly cleaned coins often sell for less than similar coins with untouched surfaces. While the standard 1972 Eisenhower dollar with no mint mark in circulated condition is common and modestly priced, the Eisenhower series as a whole has aspects that attract collector interest. Some dates and mint mark combinations, especially certain proof or mint state issues, can bring significantly higher premiums. Error coins, such as double strikes,
Off-center strikes or other anomalies are also worth paying attention to, as they can carry substantial value above the standard catalog prices. But for the average collector looking at a circulated, very fine 1972 no mint mark coin, the values we've discussed are the realistic expectation. Collecting Eisenhower dollars can be a rewarding experience because they tie together historical significance with a tangible piece of everyday life from the 1970s. These coins circulated alongside the people who lived through that decade. They were spent, saved, lost, and rediscovered over the years, and each one carries a story. Even coins in circulated condition can be meaningful additions to a collection, typeset, or personal keepsake of American currency history. So, to summarize, a 1972 Eisenhower dollar with no mint mark in circulated very fine condition typically sells in the current auction market for roughly 6 to 15 USD. The exact price depends on overall wear, eye appeal, market demand, and presentation in the listing. While this coin is not rare, it remains a beloved and historic piece of U.S. coinage, and it continues to trade actively among collectors who appreciate its place in history and its collectible value. Whether you're just starting out or you've been collecting coins for years, understanding coins like this helps you connect with both the hobby and the history behind the money we use every day.
Next up, the 1974 Eisenhower dollar with no mint mark. And we're going to break down what a circulated, very fine example is really worth in today's auction market. You might think that a dollar coin from the 1970s is just old pocket change, but when you understand the history, design, and how collectors value these coins, you begin to see why even common dates like this one still hold interest and trade regularly among hobbyists. The Eisenhower dollar was first introduced in 1971 and minted through 1978. It marked the return of the large dollar coin to U.S. circulation after more than 3 decades. The coin was created to honor both President Dwight D. Eisenhower, a 5-star World War II general and the 34th President of the United States, and America's achievements in space exploration. On the obverse is a dignified portrait of Eisenhower, and on the reverse is a powerful eagle landing on the moon, adapted from the Apollo 11 mission insignia that stands as one of the most iconic symbols of American achievement. This combination of military and space themes gives the Eisenhower dollar a unique place in numismatic history. In 1974, coins with no mint mark were produced at the Philadelphia Mint, which at that time did not include a mint mark on circulating coins. That's why you'll see these pieces simply listed as 1974 no mint mark. Millions of these were minted, and many ended up in circulation. Over time, most of them were spent, saved, lost, or tucked away in coin rolls, which means a wide range of conditions now exists out in the world. For collectors who want to fill date and mint mark collections, finding a solid example in circulated very fine condition is often both affordable and satisfying. When we talk about very fine circulated condition, we're using a standard numismatic grading term. A coin in this grade has obvious signs of wear from circulation, but enough detail remains to give a true sense of the original design. On the obverse of a very fine 1974 Eisenhower dollar, Eisenhower's features, eyes, hair, and facial contours will be worn but still clearly identifiable. The lettering around the edge, including the date and mottos like Liberty and In God We Trust, should all remain legible. On the reverse, the eagle's feathers and the lunar surface will show wear, but the overall design will still be complete and recognizable. These coins have character from years of use, and collectors often appreciate that story, even when the surfaces aren't pristine. So what does a 1974 no mint mark Eisenhower dollar in circulated very fine condition bring in today's auction market? Because this coin is common and relatively easy to find, values are modest but steady. Based on recent sales data from online auction platforms, coin dealers, and collector marketplaces, these coins typically sell in a range of about 6 to 18 USD. Coins that are closer to the lower end of that range tend to have heavier circulation marks, dull surfaces, and less eye appeal overall. Those that fall toward the higher end generally show stronger design details, more attractive toning, and fewer distracting marks.
Even though all these coins are very fine, how pleasant they look to the eye can make a noticeable difference in price. These values reflect real results from actual sales, not speculative estimates, which means they represent what collectors are actively paying when buying or bidding on these coins today. Prices can vary slightly depending on the auction platform, how well the coin is photographed, and how accurately the condition is described, but the range of roughly 6 to 18 USD is a reliable benchmark in the current market. One thing that often surprises new collectors is how much presentation matters, even for circulated coins. Clear, well-lit photos that show both sides of the coin and honest descriptions of wear and surface condition help attract more interest and higher bids. Conversely, blurry photos or vague descriptions tend to suppress bidding activity because collectors don't want to take a risk on something they can't clearly see. Another important point is that cleaning a coin to try to make it look better almost always reduces its value. Harsh cleaning, especially with abrasive tools, chemicals, or polishing cloths, can leave micro scratches and unnatural surfaces that serious collectors actively avoid. Because of this, original surface coins, even if they're worn or somewhat dirty, are typically more desirable and more valuable than coins that have been cleaned or altered. It's also worth noting that within the Eisenhower series, there are rarer and more valuable varieties, especially in mint state or proof versions, or coins with notable errors like double dies or off-center strikes. Those examples can bring significantly higher prices. But for the standard 1974 no-mint-mark Eisenhower dollar in circulated very fine condition, the values we've discussed, roughly 6 to 18 USD, are the realistic expectation in today's auction world. Collectors of all levels appreciate the Eisenhower series because it bridges early 20th century coinage with modern collecting. These coins circulated alongside Americans during a dynamic era of U.S. history, from the Vietnam era to the space program, and each coin carries a bit of that story. Even circulated coins, with all their wear and imperfections, become tangible links to that past. To recap, a 1974 Eisenhower dollar with no mint mark in circulated very fine condition remains a common but collectible coin. In today's auction market, typical values usually run from about 6 to 18 USD, depending on the eye appeal and overall condition of the specific piece. These coins continue to trade regularly, and they remain a staple in date and mint mark collections and typesets because they're affordable, historically meaningful, and widely recognized. Whether you're just starting your coin collecting journey or you've been building collections for years, understanding coins like this helps you appreciate both the hobby and the history embedded in everyday coinage. Even a common coin like the 1974 Eisenhower dollar can have a story to tell, and that's part of what makes numismatics endlessly fascinating.
Next up, the 1971 Eisenhower dollar with no mint mark, and talk about its story, its place in American history, and what it's worth in today's auction market when the coin is in circulated, very fine condition. This is a coin that marked a major moment in U.S. coinage. It carries real collector interest, and even though it's common, it still has value that's important to understand if you're buying, selling, or just curious about coins you might find. The Eisenhower dollar was first released in 1971, and it represented several big changes in American coins. For more than 3 decades before that, there had been no large dollar coins in general circulation. The Peace Dollar series ended in 1935, and after that, the U.S. Mint stuck with smaller denominations for decades. When the Eisenhower dollar was introduced, it brought back the large dollar size, roughly the size of a $50 or old silver dollar, and it honored a leader of enormous significance in modern American history. The obverse of the coin features Dwight D. Eisenhower, Supreme Allied Commander in Europe during World War II and the 34th President of the United States. His leadership on both the battlefield and in the White House made him one of the most recognizable figures of the 20th century. On the reverse is an eagle landing on the moon, adapted from the Apollo 11 mission insignia, celebrating the nation's first successful manned lunar landing in 1969.
That combination of tribute to both military and space achievement makes the Eisenhower dollar uniquely American. It ties together two defining themes of the era. In 1971, the Philadelphia Mint produced Eisenhower dollars without a mint mark. At that time, Philadelphia coins didn't carry a mint mark, so when you see a 1971 Eisenhower dollar with no mint mark, it's a Philadelphia issue. Millions of these coins were struck, and many were saved by collectors in mint condition, while countless others went into circulation. Because of this high mintage, the 1971 no mint mark issue is considered common among the Eisenhower dollar dates. Now let's talk about what collectors mean by circulated very fine. In numismatics, the grading scale helps describe a coin's condition in a way that's meaningful to buyers and sellers. A coin in very fine circulated condition will show clear signs of use. It has been in circulation and handled over time, but still retains plenty of its original design detail. On a very fine 1971 Eisenhower dollar, you'll see Eisenhower's portrait with softened but distinct features. The lettering and date will be readable, and on the reverse, the eagle's feathers and the moon's surface will show obvious wear but remain identifiable. This grade represents a middle ground, not a pristine, uncirculated coin, but a solid piece with enough detail to still be attractive to many collectors. So what does this coin sell for in today's auction market? Despite being a common date with a very high mintage, the 1971 no mint mark Eisenhower dollar in circulated very fine condition does have value above face, and the reason lies in its historical significance and its popularity among collectors completing date and typesets. Based on real-world auction results from reputable online marketplaces, coin auction houses, and dealer listings, these coins typically sell for about 8 to 22 USD in circulated very fine condition. Coins that bring prices closer to the lower end of that range are usually those with heavier wear, duller surfaces, and less attractive eye appeal. Conversely, coins that attract better prices, often toward the upper part of that range, tend to show more pleasing detail, relatively smooth wear, and surfaces that are free of distracting marks or corrosion. Eye appeal matters a lot in auctions, even for coins that are not in mint condition. A very fine coin that looks pleasing in the photos will almost always do better than one that looks dirty, scratched, or poorly photographed. It's also important to remember that these values are based on actual sales, real coins selling for real money, not just theoretical price lists. Auction prices can vary slightly depending on factors like the platform used, how well the listing is written, and whether the seller provides clear, high-quality images. Coins that are well presented tend to sell more consistently and for slightly higher prices. One common misconception among new collectors is that cleaning a coin will increase its value. For most coins, including the Eisenhower dollar, the opposite is true. Harsh cleaning, especially with abrasive cloths or household chemicals, can leave tiny scratches or alter the natural surface in ways that serious collectors find unattractive. Coins with original surfaces, even if they're worn from circulation, are generally preferred because the wear tells the authentic story of the coin's use over time. Collectors are usually willing to pay more for natural wear than for a coin that's been altered. While the standard circulated very fine 1971 Eisenhower dollar isn't considered a rare key date that sells for thousands of dollars, there are specialty examples and error varieties in the Eisenhower series that do bring higher prices. Coins with notable minting errors, such as double dies, off-center strikes, or die cracks, can attract interest and premiums beyond the standard values. Proof coins and high-grade uncirculated examples are also valued significantly higher. But for the average circulated very fine example, the $8 to $22 range is a realistic reflection of what collectors are paying today. Collectors appreciate Eisenhower dollars for several reasons. They're tangible pieces of American history that connect us to the post-World War II era, the space race, and the leadership of a president who led through both war and peace. These coins were carried in pockets and purses, saved in albums, and passed down through generations. Even in circulated condition, they hold a story, and that story adds to their allure.
To sum it up, the 1971 Eisenhower dollar with no mint mark in circulated very fine condition continues to have a stable and active market value. Typical auction results show prices ranging from about 8 to 22 USD depending on the coin's wear, eye appeal, and overall presentation. It's not a rare key date that sells for thousands of dollars, but it's a solid collectible piece that remains meaningful to beginners and seasoned collectors alike. Whether you're just starting your coin collection or you're filling gaps in a modern US set, understanding the market value of coins like this helps you make smarter buying and selling decisions. These coins are more than money. They're small pieces of history you can hold in your hand, and even a well-worn example tells a story worth exploring.